Gemology is at the halfway point of Season 1, and I wanted to take a quick break from regularly scheduled episodes so I don't burn myself out, add some variety to my schedule, you know. I've been giving my opinion on this show this whole time, so I asked everyone for their hot takes on Steven Universe on Patreon, Discord, and a YouTube community post. I'll get to see what you guys think about this show, and holy shit, I got way more responses than I ever expected. I'm not going to be able to cover every comment I got, so sorry if yours got left out. I'm going to categorize these from most tame to most controversial in categories that I asked for them, being unpopular opinions, proper hot takes, and things that otherwise might get you crucified by Steven Universe fans. Actually, let's start with a fourth category, ice cold takes, things that I think everyone can agree on. Oh, and if you haven't watched the show all the way through, you're going to want to do that first. There's gonna be lore in this video. This one comes from one of my journeyman patrons. I think Peridot should have stayed as a mainstay instead of being put on the back burner after her redemption. I mean, like, getting her limb enhancers back and being there for most of the following episodes as an actual fifth member for the main guys. This is one that I can completely agree with. Peridot is one of my favorite characters in the whole show, but the way she gets treated after going through her one and only character arc just sucks. She has this awesome climactic moment where she gets to tell off Yellow Diamond, helps Steven save the Earth from the cluster a couple episodes later, and then she just gets sidelined. The episodes that she does get after that are nice, but they're so sparse. Sometimes a ton of episodes go by to the point where you forget she's a part of the show. The whole B-Team by the end gets kinda cheated out of things to do. Speaking of B-Team, Lapis is one of the least entertaining gems in the entire show. Lapis is severely underdeveloped as a character, same for the Diamonds to an extent. There were a few ones like this, and I entirely blame it on the lack of screen time that she gets. I mean, it's really hard to get a viewer to care about a character when she gets 5 appearances per season on average. Seriously, count it. I know by the end of the show there's a lot of characters to focus on, but she should have definitely gotten more for herself. Bismuth never really felt established enough for me as a character. Not in terms of her character itself, but more so her place among the cast. She never really got a proper arc, I feel. She was just kinda hastily brought back for the finale. Never got a proper redemption arc of any kind. And from then on, she was just kinda there, shunted into the B-Team with Peridot and Lapis. I feel like she should have been brought back sooner and given a proper arc, even if it couldn't have been the longest thing ever. I know that at least as early as Season 5 the show was on a time crunch and had to wrap it up because Cartoon Network was screwing it over. There's a common trend here. The B-Team seems to be horribly mistreated. Bismuth was introduced for a double-length episode, then killed and bubbled until Season 5, where she has her character development off-screen. She's like a DLC character in a video game. Her coming back in Season 5 doesn't really accomplish anything, which is a damn shame because Bismuth is awesome. The reason why people dislike Townie episodes is because they're just worse than they used to be once you get to the later seasons. They almost feel like an obligation rather than a fun side adventure to remind you that the townspeople also exist. While this is mostly true, the Townie episodes should have been used for world building much earlier in the show, the main reason I think that people have such problems with them is from back when the show was still airing on Cartoon Network. These Townie episodes would get lumped into these massive episode drops that they do. Instead of waiting a week for one new episode, fans would end up waiting upward of 8 months for a batch of 5 episodes, only for half of them to not have anything to do with the gems. It really wore down on your patience more than anything else. It almost felt insulting, like, I waited 8 months for this? I hate that shattered gems can be revived. Ever since Jasper was shattered, then revived in future, shattering has gone from the one way a gem could really be destroyed to just a more difficult to fix version of poofing. I saw this same thing everywhere when that episode of Future came out. With Steven being able to bring back both humans and gems from actual death, there are no more stakes. Not to mention, Jasper staying dead could have been way more impactful. It would have made the climax of Future make a lot more sense. I would have liked Future a lot more if that ended up happening. Alright, let's actually warm it up in here. Unpopular opinions. It's my strong opinion that all of the gem magic is in fact magic, not sci-fi or unspecified technology that is so advanced it seems like magic, but genuine spiritual manifestations of willpower imposed on the universe through no cause and effect. I do think some of Homeworld uses real tech, like their ships and computers, but gems themselves, I believe, are magical constructs, which is why they have to be made using material from worlds that already have life on them. I kinda see this one as a bit more of a headcanon, but I can see how it can be an unpopular opinion. The problem with gem stuff being explained further and further is that it steals the magic away from it. I think the way it's worded here, that the gems are magical constructs, is a perfect description. It tickles the D&D part of my brain. It also makes gems closer to golems than to highly advanced AI, which I see some people in the fandom describing them as. It would have been cool if all of the inventions had a clear-cut reason to exist. A good handful of Steven Universe plots feel very random and out of place. And here's someone who's kinda on the opposite side of that debate. This one I have to disagree with. As much as I have gripes with the time thing and the replicator wand, I think there's room for magic things to just be magic and mysterious. If you start giving everything an explanation, you start getting too close to certain anime that over-explains its magic or tools. I'm looking at you, My Hero Academia. I think those things could have fit into the world better, at least visually and functionally, but I don't need a history lesson on every magic item in the show. Young Greg is super hot and Amethyst is a baddie. I can agree with this one. I'm sure some people would disagree, but I think this is totally reasonable. For young Greg especially, he's supposed to be a hot young musician. He was literally designed that way. Here's a few that kinda go together. Pink did not abandon Spinel on purpose or because she's a bad person. Once it was announced to her that she would have a colony, she thought that she could always have free time for her usual occupations. She was far too busy to return to the garden, and after the war, she was forced to cut all contact with Homeworld. It was Spinel's fault. Don't get me wrong, she was literally built to be a playmate, but Pink didn't have, mind control powers or anything, so she could've just moved on. Spinel did much worse than Pink Diamond, and people only give her a pass because they pity her. The moment Pink realized the injectors were killing the Earth, she immediately went to whatever lengths she could to save the planet. Spinel, on the other hand, tried to end it twice to get back at a woman she already knew was dead. She's the first gem to understand that Pink is dead, and it makes literally zero difference to her. She's nowhere near as demonized by the fans as Pink was, and I will die on this hill. I'm paraphrasing here, but I agree. I think Spinel's motivation, once you learn she'd been standing in one spot for thousands of years, is really stupid. I think Spinel did it to herself. The unfortunate reality is that this kind of thing happens in real life. Friends move away, and if they can't come back to visit, you can't just sit around waiting for something to happen. Life moves on, man. I don't want a continuation or a reboot, and the only new content I'd want is a proper Homeworld arc. Well, too bad. This was posted exactly one day before Lars of the Stars was announced, and people seem to be pretty excited about it. I guess that's a spin-off, not a reboot. Maybe we'll get some Homeworld stuff in that show, who knows? We still have no details. Most Garnet songs are absolute bangers, but True Kinda Love is too repetitive and the instrumental lasts for too long. Hold on, let me go listen to that one. Yeah, I agree. I'm sure a lot of people like that song, but Garnet has much better songs in the show. The cluster arc was actually handled well and had great payoff for how it came back later. This is a 50-50 for me. I like the cluster arc, I think it's some of the best that this show has to offer, but bringing it back in Season 5 seemed half-assed and rushed to me. What ruined it for me was the thumbs up it gives before going away again. I think the arc setting up those high stakes should have had a more intense payoff. Alright, it's warming up. Let's see some actual factual hot takes in here. The Steven's point of view rule isn't really bad. Steven Universe is a mystery show. We're supposed to learn about these things at the same time as Steven. Anytime people complain about not being able to see the gem missions just annoys me. The writers don't actually have any ideas for interesting mission subplots, they just need an excuse to get rid of the gems so Steven can have the episode happen. I would agree with this, kind of, if it wasn't a rule. I know that sounds kind of stupid, but the point of view rule being impossible to break is incredibly stifling. And I'm 1000% confident that you're wrong about the writers not having ideas for mission plots. It's not that they don't have ideas, it's that they're not fucking allowed to use them. The Steven's point of view rule is the worst decision made for the show, and only works against the writing, in my genuine, unfiltered opinion. Say Uncle is an incredible episode. Say Uncle is funny. If you hate that episode, you hate fun in general. I'm pretty confident in that. It's not canon, so if you're bent out of shape that Uncle Grandpa comes in and fucks up the rules for magic, who cares? It's an April Fool's episode. Number 1, the Steven-only perspective ruins the show as it forces Steven to be everywhere in weird ways. Number 2, there should have been an episode of Steven and Connie officially getting together. Number 3, getting the show canceled to do the wedding episode was dumb and a little selfish. Rebecca could have just told the story and put the wedding in the finale. Hey, this guy agrees with me on the first point, but I'm gonna focus on that third one. Good on Rebecca Sugar for standing up for her values, and good for the show to pave the way forward for other shows to follow suit. But man, does it suck to have the show cut short like it was. But the real people to be mad at is the Cartoon Network executives. They're the ones who said, if you do a gay wedding, we're gonna cancel your show. And then after the show is over, they come and say, actually, we're gonna greenlight you for a movie and an epilogue series and a spin-off series. I find it boring that all the Quartzes get Wait, no, better hot take. Onion is entertaining, and I love seeing characters suffer when interacting with him. I like how he's this unexplained force without a reason or motive, just existing to make your life worse. There were a handful of Onion apologists in the comments, and I just don't get it. I said it in an earlier video, but I think the show would have been exactly the same, maybe even improved, if Onion was not there at all. Maybe, just maybe, he could have just been left in as a gag character that only appears occasionally, but giving full episodes to him is fucking criminal. Which one is Steven? He's the green one. If we count it as its own season... Hey, wait, I did a comment from you already. If we count it as its own season, then Season 1B is the show's best. You get some amazing character-focused episode like Rose's Scabbard, Space Race, and On the Run. You get huge plot-shifting revelation episodes like Lion 3 and Marble Madness. And you get some of the best townie episodes like Horror Club and Keep Beach City Weird. At least I think it's pretty funny. And of course you end off with what I think is still the best arc in the entire show, the Jailbreak arc. Season 1B is where the show really came into its own and had a good idea of what it wanted to be, while still being able to play around with its characters and having a sense of mystery before the plot gets more complex in later seasons. Shit, I can't find any holes in this one. My favorite season, personally, is Season 2, but man, if this isn't a convincing argument. I might end up changing my mind on that once we get through Season 1B and Gemology. The Townie argument is the most compelling, really. Other than Shirt Club, I can't think of any episodes that I'd consider filler. And of course, you have one of the best episodes that I just talked about, Say Uncle. I like that the diamonds are being rehabilitated. Steven Universe committed to a restorative justice in a way that no other show has. We have countless shows where the big bad ultimately dies or is permanently incarcerated. I think it's okay to have one show that goes in on the idea that people who have caused harm can do better. I'll just focus on that first paragraph. I don't like that the diamonds are being rehabilitated. It makes sense that they had to be kept alive because it was necessary to fix corruption, but like, wouldn't it have made more sense for them to just have a fragile agreement to leave each other alone, like Russia and the United States? The ending of Change Your Mind was fine, but 2 years pass until the movie, and you find out that Steven has overthrown this galactic empress. I can only suspend my disbelief so much. My hot take is that I'm really tired of people whining about filler. I'm really tired of hearing people try to convince me that there isn't any filler at all. Like, did we watch the same show? I've done the filler rant before, I'll probably end up doing it again someday, but every time I conclude by saying not every bad episode of the show is filler and not every filler episode is bad. There's good filler, like Hit the Diamond, and there's bad episodes that are important, like Super Watermelon Island. I don't know, I thought that episode was a weak one thrown in the middle of all these bangers. These people are getting nailed to a cross at some point. Connie isn't a good or interesting character. People might hate you for that one, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't know where you were coming from. In terms of humans that the show puts a lot of focus on, Connie is by far the least compelling one. She's the biggest victim of Flanderization in the whole show. The show starts to give us good reasons to like her in Season 2, but by Season 5, she's basically a walking sword and a living MacGuffin that allows Steven to fuse. I don't like Lars's pink version. He jumped from being a complete a-hole to being a space pirate in like 4 episodes. I don't know where you're coming from on this one. People like him enough that he's getting his own damn show. I saw the episode Lars of the Stars and immediately fell in love with his new character. Maybe it's just because I like space adventures like Star Trek, but I cannot disagree with this more. The Sneeples should have been actual characters for in the show, as like a parallel and even a rival race for the gems. Also, Kevin should have been the main antagonist and final boss. Question for you, actually 2 questions. What are you smoking and can I have some? Garnet is an incredibly overrated character. She's super boring and doesn't contribute much to the story, especially early on. Amethyst, on the other hand, is an interesting, deeply flawed character who gets way too much hate. I think the fandom just bandwagons against her because of the Jello Apocalypse video, but she was so funny and has realistic self-worth issues, which makes her super compelling. This one comes from The Apoke, who I've known for like 10 years. And full disclosure, he has some pretty shit takes, but I think I agree with this one 100%. You can crucify us next to each other if you want. Garnet seems to have all her shit figured out before the show even began. Amethyst doesn't. Amethyst gets to go through this crazy identity crisis, which is only second to Peridot's character arc. Garnet doesn't really get a character arc. Her challenges only involve her powers like fusion and future vision. Unfortunately, that's not really relatable. I don't know what it's like to be a fusion or to have magic powers. But I do know what it's like to have identity issues and imposter syndrome. I think everyone has dealt with that at some point in their life. Amethyst grows a ton as a character between the beginning and the end of the show. You can't say the same for Garnet. Future is better than the original run. Future takes the original show and expands on it, asking, what does Steven do after becoming a legend? What's left for a normal human after saving the galaxy? He's finally left alone to live his normal human life, but doesn't know how to be a human and he needs to learn. There's a lot of talk about the show being too depressing. People don't like that the characters' lives change so drastically. I've heard that the show is described as an entire season of missed potential, and that's an alarming amount of people who say Steven's depression is not realistic actually, because I've never tried to kill anyone when I was sad. But the people who say Steven's depression is unrealistic because it has a breakdown probably don't know what it's like to have a breakdown like that, or have trouble separating what's supposed to be reality and what's fantasy. His symptoms are enhanced by his powers and the rules of the universe because it's a cartoon. Oh god, I think I'm gonna be the one to crucify this person, and then I'm gonna get crucified for what I have to say. I do not like Future, like at all. There's one episode I like, which is the Steven Tag episode. That's the only episode in this series that I would consider fun. And even then, Steven's a total Debbie Downer throughout that whole episode. Steven is a selfish asshole throughout the entire show. Oh, but it's realistic. It's a realistic depiction of depression and anxiety. I do not give a single fuck about how realistic the show is. Setting aside the fact that we're talking about magical space rocks that are tens of thousands of years old, I don't want to watch any show where the main character is an ass to everyone who tries to reach out to them and help them, no matter the reason. I get that a lot of people took comfort in the show for depicting issues like that, but that's just not me. I don't take comfort in seeing characters acting depressed in a cartoon. That's just me, though. That's my hot take. Onion is actually important to the story. What story? Like the show itself? Is this bait? Are you baiting me? Because if so, it's working. Onion is a joke character. He should have stayed a joke character. He should not have gotten any focus episodes. Are you saying this because he was one of the people who got abducted by Topaz and Aquamarine? I don't know if you noticed, but there were 4 other people being abducted there. Nothing would have changed if Onion wasn't there. The stools don't matter. Remind me to ban you from my comment section. Unfortunately, I have to cut it there. Again, there were a ton of hot takes that I couldn't include because I want to keep this video a reasonable length. Someday, I'd like to do some more crowdsourced content like this in the future. It's fun to interact with everyone. But let's get through more of the show before that. I'm taking a little vacation for a week, and after that, Gemology will start back up with the normal schedule. When it does come back, if you want to see new videos a week in advance, you can subscribe to my Patreon for just a couple bucks. The link is in the description. Shoutouts to my journeyman patrons, Alex Martin, Bingus Kid, Boomblorp, Emily, Fiore Army, Cinderant, Scala LD, Stephen Wickers, and the Tamara. Also, shoutouts to these apprentice patrons. Okay, bye.